I used to think the worst pain in life was physical. A broken hip. A failing heart. Arthritis that turns every morning into war. But no. The real pain is silence. That kind of silence that crawls into the corners of your room at night and wraps around your throat like a cold hand. The kind that comes after you've dialed the same number 4 times in a row, hoping maybe, just maybe, they'll pick up this time. They never do. My name is Frank McAllister. I'm 78. I taught American history for 41 years at Jefferson High in Cincinnati. 4 decades. Hundreds of students. I can still recall their faces, shy kids, angry kids, brilliant kids who just needed someone to see them. And I saw them. I was good at that. People said I was more than a teacher. They said I was a second father. A mentor. A voice of reason in homes where there was none. And then I came home to my own kids. And failed. My daughter, Lynn, is a lawyer in Chicago. Bright, sharp, always in a rush. My son, Eric, lives 2 hours from here. Married. 2 kids. And I haven't seen either of them in over a year. It's funny, isn't it? I used to come home and grade papers until midnight. I'd tell myself, do this right, and they'll grow up proud. I paid for Lynn's law school when her scholarship didn't cover everything. I sold my 1969 Mustang so Eric could finish his master's degree in urban planning. And they did grow up proud. Just not of me. You want to know where I am now? Room 217. St. Jude's Community Hospital. Fell in my kitchen 2 weeks ago. Knocked my head on the corner of the stove. Blood everywhere. I lay there for hours before the neighbor, the one who never smiles, finally called 911. And since then, I've been here. Surrounded by gray walls and nurses who speak to me like I'm a child. The doctor, young guy, cocky, said I should consider long-term assisted care. Said it like he was recommending a new brand of cereal. I told him, my kids are coming to get me. He just gave me that look. The one people use when they don't believe you, but they're too polite to say it. Lynn texted once. Glad you're okay. Swamped with cases. Let's talk soon. Eric didn't even do that. His wife sent a message on Facebook. Let us know if you need anything. I replied. I need my son. She left me on scene. 2 days ago, the social worker came by. Asked if I had any family nearby. I told her yes. I told her I was going home by Christmas. I smiled when I said it, like that would make it true. That night, I stared at the ceiling for hours. Tried to pray. Couldn't find the words. Only thing I heard was the quiet hum of the machines and the whispers of another patient crying softly down the hall. Sometimes I wonder if I did something wrong. Was I too strict? Too distracted? Maybe I missed the signs, the quiet resentment behind Lynn's thank yous, the cold withdrawal in Eric's eyes when I asked too many questions about his life. But then I remember. I was there. I showed up. Every recital. Every science fair. Every fever at 3 a.m. I taught them to ride bikes. To swim. To keep promises. And when their mother died, I held both of them until I couldn't feel my arms. What else was I supposed to do? Yesterday, Nurse Angela, kind woman, maybe 35, wheeled me outside. First fresh air in weeks. She said, "You're a tough one, Mr. McAllister." I smiled and said, "Used to be." She asked if I wanted to call someone. I said no. Because deep down, I already know. They're not coming. They've moved on. They've replaced me with calendars and conference calls, family brunches with other in-laws, photos on mantles I'll never see. And I'm a memory they're slowly letting go of. Like a voicemail they forgot to delete. A name they whisper only when necessary. Frank McAllister. Once a father. Once a teacher. Now. A man in room 217. But they forgot one thing. I still remember everything. And I'm not done yet. On Tuesday, the rain tapped on the window like it had something urgent to say. I'd been watching the same squirrel for 20 minutes, hopping along the soaked railing of the hospital garden. Somewhere deep inside, I envied that damn squirrel, free, unnoticed, moving wherever it pleased. Nurse Angela came in with my lunch tray. "Meatloaf again," she sighed. "I keep telling them you're not a fan." I smiled politely. "They're trying to kill me slowly." She chuckled, but I didn't mean it as a joke. The door stayed open longer than usual that afternoon. For a second, I thought maybe someone finally came. Maybe Lynn had changed her mind. Maybe Eric decided that his father was still worth a 2-hour drive. But instead, it was him. A young man, couldn't have been more than 23, walked in awkwardly. Tall, unshaved, tattoos peeking out from under his hoodie. He looked out of place, like a dog at a cat show. "Mr. McAllister?" he asked. I blinked, confused. "Yes. I'm Jason. Jason Alvarez." The name rolled around in my brain like a coin in a dryer. Then it hit me. "Jason Alvarez," I said, narrowing my eyes. "You were in my third period class. Sophomore year. 2007. He smiled. A real one. Not the polite kind. "Damn. You remembered. How could I forget? You almost burned down my classroom trying to light a match with your teeth." He laughed, the sound bouncing off the sterile walls like sunshine. For a moment, it was 2007 again. For a moment, I wasn't a patient in room 217. I was a teacher again, with a smart-ass student trying too hard to be tough. "I saw a post on Facebook," he said. "One of the nurses here, her cousin's my friend, said you were here. I wanted to come see you." I looked at him for a long time. "Why?" Jason scratched the back of his neck. "Because I owe you." He pulled up a chair, sat down beside my bed like he belonged there. "You probably don't remember, but, sophomore year, I got suspended for fighting. Everyone thought I was just another angry kid. You're the only one who asked why." I did remember. Vividly. I remembered the bruises he tried to hide, the way he flinched when someone raised their voice. "I still got the note you wrote me," he said, voice quieter now. "Said I wasn't a problem. That I was a person in pain. You wrote, 'Don't let your hurt turn into hate. You're better than your past.'" He looked up at me, eyes glassy. "That note saved my life, man." I had no idea what to say. "I work with kids now," he added. "At a youth center. Been doing it 3 years. We teach 'em how to box, play music, write poems. Stuff like that. Every time I see a kid like I used to be, I think of you." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "They left you here alone?" he asked. I nodded. He clenched his jaw. "That's wrong." "It is what it is," I said. "We raise them to fly, and sometimes they don't fly back." Jason stood, eyes burning. "Well, I came back. And I'm not the only one. I told a few guys you were here. They're coming next week. You don't have to. We want to." He left that day after an hour, promising to return. I laid there in silence afterward, staring at the window again. But the silence felt different this time. It wasn't as sharp. It wasn't as cold. Because someone came back. Not my blood. But my legacy. And maybe, just maybe, there's more to family than DNA. December 23rd. The lights in the hallway flickered green and red, a cheap attempt at cheer. Someone had taped a paper snowman to the door of my room. His smile was lopsided. It was supposed to be my first Christmas with the family in 3 years. Lynn promised she'd fly in. Eric said he'd try to make it work. The kids were going to bring cookies. Play cards. Watch It's a Wonderful Life. I even shaved. Nurse Angela helped me wrap the gifts I ordered online, small things, practical things. I remembered what they liked, even if they had forgotten what I meant to them. 3 hours I sat in that stiff chair by the window. Every time the elevator dinged, I looked up. Every set of footsteps made my heart twitch. But no one came. Not at noon. Not by evening. Not by the time the Christmas Eve Mass played quietly from the old TV in the corner. I stared at the little gift bags on the table. I'd written their names in neat Sharpie letters. Lynn. Eric. Maddie. Connor. They looked so stupid sitting there. Like decorations for a party that had been cancelled, but no one bothered to tell me. By 9 p.m., Angela came in gently. "They're probably stuck traveling," she said, her voice too soft, too kind. I nodded, not trusting my voice. "You want me to put the gifts away?" I looked at them for a long time. "No," I said. "Leave them. Maybe someone else needs them more." She didn't ask what I meant. She just placed a hand on my shoulder. An hour later, I rolled myself to the nurse's station. My bones protested, but something inside me was louder now. Something awake. Angela looked surprised. "You okay, Mr. McAllister?" "I need a phone." She handed it to me. I dialed Lynn's number first. Straight to voicemail. Then Eric's. Same thing. I left the same message for both. "Hey, it's Dad. I waited today. Maybe you forgot. Maybe you didn't care. But I did. And I'm done waiting. Merry Christmas." I handed the phone back. Angela watched me carefully. "You sure you're all right?" "No," I said. "But I'm done being not all right quietly." She gave me a nod I didn't expect, like she understood exactly what I meant. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of sadness, but because something had cracked open in me. A space I didn't know I'd buried beneath years of excuses, blind forgiveness, and second chances no one asked for. I thought of all the students I helped. All the kids I coached through life's messes. I thought of Jason. Of the others he said were coming. I thought of the letter Maddie once wrote me in 3rd grade. "Grandpa, you make me feel safe when the world feels too big." Then I thought of how big the world had felt today, and how no one came to make me feel safe. Something shifted in me. Not bitterness. Not rage. Just clarity. They weren't coming. And I was done holding the door open. The next morning, Jason returned. He brought a small tree, some pizza, and 2 other young men I barely recognized. They brought their own chairs. We sat in a circle, laughing, talking. One of them, Deshaun, told me he used to ditch school until I caught him smoking behind the gym and made him write an essay on why Frederick Douglass would have kicked his ass. "I hated you that week," he said. "But it changed me." Jason passed out paper cups of ginger ale and raised his. "To Mr. McAllister," he said. "The men who showed us we weren't broken. Just lost." I couldn't speak. My eyes did it for me. I'd spent so long grieving a family who'd forgotten me, I almost missed the one who hadn't. They didn't have my blood. But they carried my legacy. And they showed up. 3 days after Christmas, I asked Nurse Angela for paper. Not the hospital kind, the good kind. Heavy. Clean. Unfolded. "I want it to feel real," I said. She nodded, no questions asked. I took my time. Propped myself in bed, tray across my lap, pen steady in my hand. I didn't write like a father begging. I didn't write like a man grieving. I wrote like a man who'd finally remembered who the hell he was. To Lynn and Eric. I waited for you. On Christmas. On birthdays. After surgeries. After voicemail beeps and unanswered texts. I waited. But I'm not waiting anymore. You may think time erases things. That the silence you send is harmless. That distance is just life. But silence screams. And I heard every word. I heard it when I sat alone in room 217 with wrapped gifts that never left the table. I heard it when a nurse offered me a pity smile instead of your arms. I heard it when your children, my grandchildren, didn't call, didn't write, didn't ask. And yet, I want you to know this. I am not angry. Because anger would mean I still expect something from you. And I don't. I raised you with love, not perfectly, but relentlessly. I gave up dreams to build yours. I buried your mother and raised you through the darkness, even when I didn't know how. I showed up. Again and again and again. And then. You stopped. You stopped seeing me as a person. I became an obligation. A task. A voicemail. Eventually, not even that. I wondered for a long time if I had failed you. But then Jason Alvarez walked through my hospital door. And behind him came others, students you never met, lives I'd once touched. They remembered. They carried my lessons in their chest. They showed up, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And I realized something. I did not fail. I was a good man. A good father. A good teacher. A whole human being. You just stopped looking. So here's what I want you to understand. You don't get to have me halfway. You don't get my legacy without the labor. You don't get to call me Dad when it's convenient. This letter isn't revenge. It's release. You no longer have power over me, not your silence, your absence, or your delay. I am not forgotten. I am remembered deeply, just not by you. And that is enough. I hope one day you understand the weight of a chair left empty. I hope one day you sit in silence and feel the echo of someone who used to wait for your knock. But I won't be there. Not with anger. Not with guilt. Not even with sorrow. Only peace. I release you. I remember me. Dad. I folded the letter slowly. No shaking hands. No regret. Angela mailed it for me that night. I didn't need a reply. In fact, I hoped I'd never get one. Not because I hated them. But because, for the first time in years, I didn't need them to be okay. When you give everything to someone who gives you nothing back, there's a hollowing inside you. And you spend years trying to fill it with excuses, hope, and history. But sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Just let the empty chair speak for itself. Room 217 used to feel like a cell. A place people disappeared into. A quiet waiting room for the forgotten. But something shifted after I sent that letter. I didn't leave the room, I claimed it. The nurses noticed first. Angela raised an eyebrow when she walked in and saw the photos taped to the wall, not of family, but of students. Dozens of them. Jason brought them in. Printed, some even framed. One photo showed Marissa J., she was my debate team captain in 2002, giving a TED Talk in front of a packed theater. Another, little Marcus Ivy, now Sergeant Marcus Ivy of the U.S. Army, holding his newborn. I looked at them every morning. They were my proof. Proof I mattered. Proof I lived fully, even if I was no longer visited. Jason came by every Thursday now. Sometimes with others, sometimes alone. They called it office hours. Like we were back in school. They'd bring in folding chairs. Sit around my bed. Talk about their lives, their fears, their regrets. I listened. I asked questions. I corrected grammar, couldn't help myself. Sometimes I didn't speak at all. Just looked them in the eye like they mattered. Because they did. Room 217 became something else. A kind of strange sanctuary. Kids who'd once been lost found a piece of themselves here. Angela started bringing new patients in too, men and women older than me, who'd stopped speaking, who refused physical therapy, who believed they were already gone. They'll listen to you, she said. So I listened to them. And told them to get the hell up. I told 84-year-old Walter he was not dying, he was just bored. I told June from across the hall that if her husband could cheat on her after 55 years, the least she could do was outlive him. They laughed. They cried. They came back. Even the staff changed. Nurses on break would stop in for 5 minutes of silence. Or a quick quote. Angela joked, they should be billing you as therapy. One afternoon, I caught myself humming, hadn't done that in years. Something old. Sinatra, maybe. I looked down at my wrinkled hands and smiled. They weren't tools of waiting anymore. They were instruments again. One night, a young intern named Caleb sat with me. First year out of med school. Looked exhausted. Told me he didn't know why he chose medicine anymore. I listened. Then I said, because someone, once, saw something in you. And now you owe that gift back. Not to the system. Not to the paycheck. To the someone. He stared at me, blinking hard. 2 weeks later, he brought in coffee and called me coach. I didn't teach in a school anymore. But I had students again. I had purpose. Not because it was handed to me, but because I reclaimed it. Room 217 wasn't my punishment. It became my platform. People kept expecting me to shrink. To fade. Even my own children. Instead, I expanded. I stopped trying to prove myself to those who chose absence. Instead, I poured into the ones who showed up. Legacy isn't in photo albums. It's in echoes. In moments. In rooms where people gather to hear you speak, even if it's just about meatloaf and metaphors. They thought they left me behind. But I was never behind. I was ahead, waiting for them to realize what they lost. I don't remember exactly when I started waking up without hope, just habit. It had crept in slowly, like dust gathering in corners. But these days, I woke up with purpose again. Small. Quiet. Steady. Each morning, Nurse Angela would walk in and find me already dressed, even if it took me 20 minutes and a curse or two to button my shirt. Room 217 had become something more than a number on a door. It was a classroom. A chapel. A place where broken people sat together and remembered they were still whole. One morning, the head nurse brought in a new patient, an older man, pale and stubborn, silent. She said, "He hasn't spoken to anyone in 3 days." So I looked him in the eye and said, "You know what's worse than dying? Dying quiet." He blinked. Then smiled. Didn't say a word, but came back the next day. I didn't need applause. I didn't want recognition. But people felt something in that room. And so did I. 2 weeks after New Year's, I got a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A real letter. In Lynn's handwriting. Asterisk, Dad, I read your letter 5 times. I don't know what to say. I think I always assumed you'd be there. Like the moon. Like gravity. You were right, I stopped seeing you as a person. I saw you as a lighthouse, always shining, but never needing anything. I don't know if it's too late. But I'd like to come. I'd like to talk. Even if it's just for 5 minutes. Asterisk. I sat with that letter for a long time. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't moved, I was. But because tears are for sorrow. And this moment wasn't sorrow. It was something else. Peace. I didn't need her visit anymore. Not to prove anything. Not to fix what couldn't be undone. But I wrote back. Come if you're ready to see me as I am, not as I was. I'll be here. Still shining. Still me. She came 3 days later. Wore a navy coat like her mother used to. Held her purse like a shield. When she walked into room 217, she didn't speak at first. Just stood there. Staring. I didn't smile. I didn't reach out. I waited. Then, quietly, she said, "Hi, Dad." And I replied, "Hello, Lynn." That was enough. We talked for 30 minutes. About her work. About Connor. About how much Maddie looks like her grandmother now. Then, just before she left, she said, "Jason emailed me. Said he owes you his life." I just nodded. As she opened the door, she turned and asked, "Do you forgive me?" I looked at her. And for once, for the first time since they stopped calling, stopped showing up, I answered honestly. No. She froze. But I'm no longer waiting to. Her eyes welled up. "It's okay," I said. "I'm not angry. I just, finally remembered who I am." She nodded. No words. Just a long, trembling breath. And then she left. I didn't watch her walk down the hallway. I turned back to the window. The same one I used to stare out of, waiting for someone who might never come. Now, I watched the birds instead. Room 217 has a new patient now, a young veteran with eyes too old for his age. I talk to him in the mornings. I listen more than I speak. Jason visits every Thursday. Sometimes he brings his little sister. She's starting college next fall. Angela says the nurses call my room the lighthouse. That's fine by me. Let them come. Let them sit. Let them leave feeling a little stronger. Because this was never about revenge. It was about memory. About reclaiming what people tried to forget. About lighting one last fire before the dark. I didn't get louder. I got clearer. And in the end, that was enough.
Subscribe and like, and send the video to your friends.